Welcome to my Days of Our Lives official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Holly collapses, Tate hauled off in handcuffs, and Ava plays nurse. Days of Our Lives reveals that John Black and Steve Johnson continued doing CPR at the old brewery, where Wendy Shin eventually recaptured knowledge and started asking for Trip Johnson. After John got Wendy back, Steve did the same with Trip and was relieved along with Ava Vitali, Ray Fernandez, and Harris Michaels. Trip murmured about his woman. But Steve assumed that was just because his son wanted Wendy to be his woman. One day, at the sanitarium on Day's occasion, Wendy scored praise for using her ASL knowledge to subscribe the word beer in the videotape and recapitulated what went down to Rafe, Harris, and John. Trip also got a visit from Ava and Steve, so he learned Steve saved his life and was happy to let them stay in his room as long as they liked. Still, Trip ultimately got a moment alone with Wendy once she was wheeled in. Wendy was on board with Trip's Paris trip idea, but she just wanted to be there looking into his eyes for now and gave him a kiss. In the city forecourt on Tuesday's DOL show, Brady Black ran into Sarah Horton and asked if Holly Jonas' coma could affect her memory, but he amended that to a further generalized question since she could break Croker. Case confidentiality. Sarah clarified that she wasn't a neurologist, but she knew comas could indeed affect the mind in that way, and the recollections could come back suddenly, gradationally, or not at each. Latterly, Sarah forced Harris to get checked out after all the police drama and transferred him home with an antibiotic as well as pain meds. Since Xander Cook was still locked up, Sarah also quizzed Harris about his memory briefly. Harris prevaricated that he still didn't flashback who targeted him that night, but Sarah said Victoria Horton Cook missed her daddy and counted on Harris to continue probing. Although Harris was eager to get back to work, Rafe ordered him to go rest up. Ava spoke to Harris intimately and refocused out that he wasn't completely recovered yet, so she prompted him to come stay in her bed so she could take care of him. At the DiMera manse on Tuesday's Day's occasion, E.J. DiMera entered Holly's room and flew off the handle when he saw Tate Black. E.J. claimed Tate had broken in the house and would be transferred to jail. Holly tried to protest along with Tate, who said he wanted to check on Holly and see for himself that she was okay. Unfortunately, E.J. still called the Bobbies to come take Tate down. Nicole DiMera joined all the chaos and stood by E.J.'s decision before calling Brady with the news that Tate was at the DiMera manse. Brady soughed in frustration before assuring Nicole that he'd be right there. In the DiMera living room, E.J. said he eavesdropped Holly soliciting Tate not to make her do this. That left E.J. indeed induced that Tate was obliging Holly to cover for him. Tate argued that he was just trying to get Holly to tell the verity so he could get his life back. Although Tate formerly again prayed Holly while E.J. blustered, she collapsed and left everyone in a fear. Brady was present for most of the mayhem and admitted there was only so much he could do since Tate broke into the DA's house. Tate sounded spooked as the Bobbies arrested him and said he really squinched up this time, but Brady tried to assure him as he was let off in bind. In Holly's room, she told Nicole that it wasn't necessary to call Sarah, leaving Day's suckers with dubieties about whether her conking spell was real or a way out of coming clean earlier. Nonetheless, Holly sounded like she actually might try to explain until Nicole and E.J. forced her to get some rest rather. Days of Our Lives say Tate will hope for some positive legal updates soon, so we'll offer more prognostications on this plot as it heats up. Holly faints upon defending Tate when E.J. catches them together and Rafe grows suspicious of Ava as Tate begs Holly to tell the verity. E.J. bursts into her bedroom. Furious to see Tate, E.J. dials the police. Holly urges her stepfather to hang up. When he does, Tate explains he just wanted to see Holly, averring the medicines she took weren't his. Nicole joins them. Unswayed by Tate, E.J. leaves the room to call the police as Nicole calls Brady. Running into Sarah in the forecourt, Brady asks if a person's memory could be affected by a coma. She tells him there's eventuality for that, depending on the inflexibility of the brain damage and how long they were in a coma. Brady points out Tate's future depends on Holly flashing back the night she OD'd. Sarah understands his frustration, but there are no guarantees. After Sarah leaves for work, Brady gets Nicole's call. After hanging up, Nicole asks the teens what's really going on. Rafe and Harris arrive at the beer tank as Steve and John revive Wendy and Trip. Trip groggily asks where Wendy is. "Where's my woman?" Steve assumes he called her that because eventually he hopes she'll be. Rafe gets a call about Clyde's escape. John and Steve tense. Further time for Clyde to go for good. Ava faces Steve with folded arms in the sanitarium lobby. Sarah, John, Harris, and Rafe observe. Latterly at the sanitarium, Sarah tells Ava, John, and Steve that Wendy and Trip are doing well, but they need their rest. Steve and Ava go to see their son while John goes to Wendy. Sarah wants to examine Harris after he and Rafe talk with Wendy. In Trip's room, Ava tells her son that Steve saved his life. Steve calls it a group trouble. It's only important that they set up him in time. In Wendy's room, she thanks Rafe and John for saving her and Trip's life. Rafe asks if he should communicate her parents. She relays she left a voicemail for her mama that she's okay. Harris joins them as Wendy recounts how Goldman allured her and Trip down from the geocaching event. John gives Wendy laurels for subscribing the word beer on Trip's hostage videotape. Further Grey's deconstruction. Wild Season 20 exercise. Wendy lies in a sanitarium bed. Harris, John, and Rafe stand at her bedside. Further Who's Lexi Carver? John tells Rafe that Wendy's signing is what led them to the old brewery. Rafe is impressed, but deadpans that they might have saved them sooner had Ava shown them the videotape from the morning. Wendy defends Ava with a little backup from Harris. Ravening at Harris, Rafe insinuates Ava was responsible for Clyde's captivity escape. After Brady shows up at the DeMera manse, Tate begs Holly to tell the verity. When the Bobbies show up, EJ demands they arrest Tate. Brady defends his son, but EJ will end here of Tate's innocence. Holly interrupts EJ's diatribe, averring his hypotheticals aren't true. Before she can say anything differently, she faints. EJ carries Holly upstairs, and the Bobbies handcuff Tate. After Sarah examines Harris, she gives him conventions for an antibiotic and pain drug, the ultimate of which is only to be used if necessary. Sarah hopes he gets to the bottom of who shot him because Xander is being held without bail. He says he does and flash back. She hopes he'll keep probing so Victoria's Pater can come home where belongs. Harris gapes guiltily. In the lobby, John tells Steve that Rafe is suspicious of Ava in Clyde's escape. They worry Rafe's digging will lead straight back to them. John says they made a serious mistake. We let the devil loose. God only knows what's going to be next. Further cleaner stagers tapped for online cleaner. Harris spreads his hands in a questioning manner at Rafe. Harris meets Rafe alone in Wendy's room. Rafe addresses of the task force he'll put together, but orders Harris to go home to heal. Meanwhile, Sarah busts Wendy to Trip's room. Wendy weakly embraces him and sits on his bed. They appreciate just being there together and express their love. Holly sits up in her bed, averring to Nicole and EJ that she's forfeiture. All she needs is for EJ not to shoot Tate to jail. She promises he didn't do anything wrong. They refuse to hear to her and tell her to rest. She slinks down into bed, pouting as they leave. Further, could Paulina still bear one of these characters' hearts? In the living room, Brady sorrowfully tells his son there's nothing he can do to keep him out of jail. The Bobbies lead a spooked Tate down. Ava and Harris grasp in the sanitarium lobby. She thanks him for everything he did for Trip. He knows she was there for him when he was unconscious. When he looks forward to sleeping in his own bed, she offers up hers rather. He's still recovering and needs someone to take care of him. She wants to be that person. Will you let me? Please?